And like that's kind of the thing too about this whole um not canceling movement, but I guess the Karen thing. It's like the
Please call the
fact
cops.
that up until
Please call the
the
cops.
time where everyone had a phone at all times, people would never take the word of a black
Please
person
tell them whatever you like.
seriously. Like your eyewitness testimony was always the lowest valued opinions, the lowest valued ideas, and it's just based on like that trauma and this false narrative that like we didn't contribute to anything. Like knowing damn well we motherfucking made a lot of this shit that's out here, and we contributed, and everybody contributed, like all people in all walks of life. But when you push a narrative that falsely promotes and gives one group of people all this credit and all this like basically false self-esteem, false confidence with a direct and deliberate, what would it be like? It's like a direct and deliberate brainwashing scheme to break down people's self-confidences, like that shit. That's what we're really talking about. But we're really not even ready to have that conversation because you got knuckleheads joining up, trying to do this fake ass, weak ass one level trolling. And it's like when a real troll goes and sees this stuff, and we're like, "Hey, we know what you're doing, dude." Like this is like a really low level, like quasi scheme type shit. Like this is the oldest trick in the book type shit. And it's like what we're talking about is like a historical, evidence-based, case by case, monetary. Like these points can be proven back to the Kazai thing on an economic level. We can prove that this has happened based on the intake and profits made from cotton, goddamn tobacco, cocoa, sugar, sugar cane, these things that we've been chopping. My grandfather grew up on a plantation in his days, 1900s. He grew up on a plantation picking cotton as a kid. Slavery had been over for years and years and years. But people were still living this rural like lifestyle where, they were basically sharecropped. They were still in slavery. So like, even out of slavery, you put people back in slavery. And then you discredit and you stop them at every turn of the way. You're gonna get problems, man. You're gonna get problems. Because people based on genetic, you know, analysis are, basically coming from one single species. But when you create these like false narratives of like skin tone, meaning intelligence, or skin tone meaning ability, or you start creating these negative stereotypes, you're gonna have problems. But there's also positive stereotypes that I run into from a daily basis, but they're usually shallow and naive. But like the true history is like one of the greatest stories ever told. And if only America would list all its contributing members and everyone's talent and give people a decent shot at, making a living and having their own businesses without being undermined by, like, one, their own community sometimes, two, the freaking powers that be, who, so to speak, three, just the whole fucking system at large, four, the education system, teaching that false shit. It's like, man, like, people need reforms and some like truer global perspective of history. But at the same time, we have to like preserve all the things that have happened. Like, yo, what about these people history made them so vital to their nation, so vital to their people, so vital to the world? Maybe this motherfucker did some wrong shit, but what techniques, what knowledge did they use in order to form their opinions and then change the world? Where did it go wrong? What should not be? Like now it's like completely, it's like the burn the books thing. Like the I guess Mao Zedong's era. It's like burn the books. Like, okay, now you burned all the books. Now you don't know what mistakes people made or what stories they were trying to tell and like push for it. I want to keep alive the old shit just to go back, because once you go back and see what people were doing, like we have the technology to see what kind of movies were people making 100 years ago. What were the messages? Like what was Birth of a Nation about? It was about the uprising of conscious former enslaved people of African descent who were brought to America with the intention to be used for labor. Those people being freed, having all the skills to build their own homes, to build the infrastructure of cities, to actually lay the brick and mortar for homes, build all these communities up. And then after they mastered these arts, basically like steel working, all the most useful skills that America used to have, like before everything got outsourced, those people mastered their crafts. And from the skills and the trials and tribulation, labor gained the mental capacity to manage things beyond themselves. So they made their art form. Now they say, I can manage my community. I can manage this district. So in North Carolina, Virginia, like a lot of different areas, there's prominent acts coming up and, you know, running for office. So now we're like talking about people's right to vote. Like, you know, black people did not have the right to vote. So what happened and what all the politicians end up fighting for, it's like the black vote, and then they're fighting for the poor white vote. But right now, suppression is happening even within the Black Lives Matter and the black communities, to the point where they're silencing and taking away the rights that ancestors fought and died for in order to give all the people these rights. And like when people's families come from overseas, you know, a lot of people like refugees and people who immigrate to America, they get the benefits of all the laws that were changed because people were fighting for civil rights in different dimensions. Yet in America, they systematically displace the people who really started from the bottom and like have been at the bottom for a long time. So black and white, like those people a lot of them are still stuck in ignorance, but a lot of people are like waking up and have been awake and had consciousness, have skills, and, you know, don't have a chance. They don't have a chance to like express themselves. So like all those bigger problems in America, I was looking at for years and years. Started training with guns. I started looking up different groups of small like, political movements, talking to different people, youth of my age, people who are the descendants of political activists who fought for freedom, and examining those guys' backgrounds and histories, and not necessarily agreeing with people, but even like years ago, I was like in certain zones, and people would come at me like, even on Facebook, like threatening and talking about like violence and based on political things, because I started friending and connecting the dots to people who were spreading like information and certain narratives, and seeing how the elections were being swayed and people were kind of like getting really, really extreme. So I saw like a lot of crazy shit happening. Our like ends with like police in America. Like, had my car run off the road before. Like, been chased. Like, some of my friends had guns pulled on them. Like, a lot of shit with America. I want to get out of there. Want to see the world. Been traveling different countries, and now I've come to Japan to kind of give back to the culture that's given a lot to me and like given a lot to my family. So to be here, it's like back